Well, howdy there, Internet students. This is Mr. Hermanson, and this is going to be our first lesson of the year. As you know, you are now in algebra class, and our first lesson is about linear relationships. And what we're going to do today is we're just going to kind of review and look at some different representations that can help us learn algebra. You're going to always want to have this booklet with you when you're doing these lessons. And at the beginning of each booklet, we're going to have our objectives, which are the state standards, which basically are algebra standards. You can see today that we're going to learn how to represent and interpret increasing or decreasing linear relationships in words, tables, graphs, and equations. We're actually going to spend a couple days on that one. Here's a spot where you can keep track of your scores if you'd like. And notice it says retake. If you don't get a certain score, then we're going to ask that you retake it until you meet a certain standard on that objective, which basically means we want to make sure you've learned it. So when you go to high school and you need to use this algebra stuff, you can use it. Okay, so we're going to do a quick little activity here. Now, one of the things you're going to want to do as we do a lesson is you're going to want to pause a lot and maybe even go back, pause it so you can take notes. And if I ask you to pause and do a problem ahead of time, you really should do that. If you're just going through this real fast, you're not going to really learn it well. And you're going to have to retake a lot of stuff. So it's best to just get into some good habits. We're going to start right here. This is something you can do. You're going to draw the next case, and then you're going to describe in words how the number of tiles changes with each new case. So go ahead and look at case 1, case 2, case 3, and look for a pattern, and then draw case 4 and describe what's happening to the number of tiles as you go to the next case. Okay, your case 4 should look something like this, maybe a little neater than mine. And you should have written something like this, that you notice that the number of tiles is increasing by 4. Now in math, when you're increasing by the same amount every time, that should tell you something about the relationship. And we're going to use a table and a graph here to look into that relationship a little bit more. I'll get you started on this table and then you can go ahead and fill it in. But we have two variables here. We have the case number, which is the independent variable, and then we have the number of tiles, which is the dependent variable. Now in case 1, you should see there's 4. On case 2, there's 8. Case 3, there's 12, and so on. Think about how many would be at case 0. Go ahead and fill that table in. Now, when you get a situation like this where it's going up by the same amount every time, that's called a linear relationship. And you'll notice when you graph it that it does make a straight line. And so we're going to go ahead and graph that. Now, what I do is I count the grid lines in my graph that I'm using, my space, and then I look at what I need to go up to on my x variable, my independent variable. So I'm going to go along the bottom. Well, there's 20 spaces along the bottom, and I need to go up to 10. So that means I can go every other one, fill that in. And that way I use up my whole grid space. And so think about that. There's 20 grid lines going up also, and we need to get to 40. So how would you space it if you wanted to use that space to the best of your ability? Okay, so going by 2s on that, now you should always label so we know which is which. So this is the number of tiles here, and this is the case we're on. And then you can go ahead and plot these points, 0, 0, 1, 4, 2, 8, and so on. So now your graph should look like this, and you should notice that for every case, the number of tiles is going up by 4. So we're adding 4 every time. And a shortcut for adding 4 every time, you might remember from your elementary days that that's multiplication. So there's some multiplication going on here that's actually a shortcut, and it works like this. You can get the number of tiles by multiplying the case number by 4. Now, what we really want to learn how to do in algebra is how do you turn that into an equation? And what we'll do is we'll use T to represent tiles. We'll use C to represent case. And so multiplying the case by 4 will look like 4 times C. And we can even write that in shorthand in algebra. Whenever we're doing multiplication, we could use a time symbol, but the X, we often use that as a variable, so we don't really like to do that. And a dot kind of looks like a decimal. So what we do is we just put, when we want multiplication, we just put the letter right next to the number. And to say that 4 times the case number is how we get the number of tiles, in other words, it equals the number of tiles, T. So there's our equation. Now think about that equation and see if you can't do number 4. How many tiles would be in the 50th case? So you should be thinking that you can just do 4 times 50, and that would be 200. All right, I'm going to do one more problem with you. And then I'm going to let you try the next couple on your own, and I'll show you how. I'll give you the answers for those on the next day after you watch this lesson. But so let's do one more together, and then you can go ahead and do a couple practice problems for today. Okay, so draw the next case and describe in words what's happening. So your figure should look like this, and you should say something like you're going to add 2 tiles for each new case. Okay, again, we're going to create a table and a graph for this. Let's use C and T again, and we'll go up to 10 cases. And you can go ahead and fill that in. Count the number of tiles for each, look for a pattern, and finish the table. This problem is a little kind of interesting because if we follow this pattern of adding 2 every time, then subtracting 2, if we go backwards, we would get K0 is -1. All right, and again, on this axis, we're going to just go up by we're going to go every other one to get those filled in. And since we need to get to 19, we can just go by 1 because we have 20 up here. So I'm only going to write in every other one, but we're just going by 1 there. So go ahead and make your graph. Your graph should look like that. And to figure out how many tiles would be in the 50th case here, again, the pattern is adding 2. And once again, from elementary, we learned that adding 2 every time, the shortcut for that is multiplying by 2. So we're going to take 2 times our case. That doesn't work perfect, though, because like if I did 2 times 10 down here for this case, that would be 20, and I'm actually 1 less than that, 19. So I'm going to take 2 times the case minus 1 to get my total number of tiles. Now in algebra again, let's use the letter C for case. We'll let the letter T be tiles, so tiles equals, we're going to do 2 times the case, and that's how it looks in algebra, and then minus 1. Well, now you can go ahead and use that equation to figure this out. The 50th case would be 2 times 50 minus 1. Go ahead and get that answer. And you should have got 99 for your answer there. All right, here's what I'd like you to do for today, the work on your own. You're going to do 2 more situations here. Create the representations and see if you can't do the last part, which is the 50th case, make a prediction. And I would suggest trying to look for a pattern and creating an equation to do that. All right, that's it for today. We'll talk to you tomorrow.